Good afternoon. Today we have assembled here to celebrate the 127th birth anniversary of one of the greatest stars in the world of statistics, Professor Prasanta Chandra Mahalanobis. Due to COVID-19 pandemic, we are not able to have the usual program that we have in ISI. We have decided to have it online and pre-recorded. Today's program is restricted to a few such pre-recorded speeches, and hence we are going to start the program as usual with an opening song by the ISI club members. Thank you, the ISI club members, for a nice song. I would now request our director, Professor Sanghamitra Bandyopadhyay, to give her welcome address.
I welcome all of you on this day, the 29th of June 2020, to the online function celebrating the 127th birth anniversary of Prasanta Chandra Mahalanobis, the founder of the Indian Statistical Institute. Thanks to the tremendous development in information and communication technology, the workers and students of the Institute, as well as well-wishers from all over the world, can join us in our celebrations amidst this unprecedented pandemic. The charisma of Mahalanobis has never failed to amaze me. With all the constraints and limitations of the early and mid-1900s, he established an institute as modern as the Indian Statistical Institute and got luminaries from around the world to this corner in Baranagar that was well beyond the limits of the city of Kolkata. Along with several other organizations that are now organs of the government, he built the statistical system of the country on a rock-solid foundation. We continue reaping the benefits of his creations to this day. Celebration of the birthday of PCM as National Statistics Day started from 2007. The themes of this year's celebration are two important sustainable development goals: ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all, and achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. ISI strives to contribute in both the SDGs. In particular, an institute which has had its first woman director and is one of the first to have so among similarly placed institutes at the national level can certainly claim to believe in women's empowerment. Statistics thrives because there is uncertainty, and these are indeed very uncertain times. The demand and expectation from this discipline of statistics is starker today. The walls demarcating the different disciplines are also becoming blurry, with one merging seamlessly into the other. It is hard to keep statistics and mathematics separate from big data analytics, informatics, economics, physics, genetics, sociology, anthropometry, psychology, or demography. Hence, there is a great need for every discipline to open up, reinvent itself, and to become part of a meta-discipline. More than discipline-centric pride, the need of the day is to collaborate to address at least a few of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the world. The need is to ask ourselves, have we made a difference in alleviating poverty, in improving healthcare, reducing social and gender disparity, conserving the natural resources? I recall the famous lines of Kavi Shukanta Bhattacharya's Bengali poem, "E পৃথিবীকে এ শিশুর বাসযোগ্য করে যাব আমি, নবজাতকের কাছে এ আমার দৃঢ় অঙ্গীকার," that may be translated into, "I will leave the earth a little more habitable for the child. This is my pledge to the newborn." It will indeed be a matter of great pride if we make the world a little more peaceful and a little more harmonious for the next generation. I take this opportunity to express my warm gratitude to the two leading lights of the Institute, our Institute President, Shri Vivek Debroy, and the Council Chairman, Professor Govardhan Mehta. Thank you both very much for your leadership and counsels that has helped us sail through many a crisis. I extend a warm welcome to our speakers, Professor Maloy Ghosh and Sri Johar Sarkar, for agreeing to send recorded messages for today's function. The support received from our administrative ministry is gratefully acknowledged. Gratitude to all workers, research scholars, and students of the Institute for their cooperation and assistance in Institute functioning. I take this opportunity to urge my colleagues, in particular my younger colleagues, to work as a team for the benefit of the Institute. Our well-being is intricately linked to the well-being of the Institute. Together we sail, together we sink. So while individual brilliance is important, cooperation and teamwork are equally important for us to retain our glory and excellence. Wishing you all a very happy National Statistics Day and ISI Workers' Day. Stay safe, stay healthy. Take good care of yourselves and your loved ones. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Bandyopadhyay, for your address. We now have an address by our President, Mr. Vivek Dev Roy.
Today is a very important day. It's an important day not only because it is National Statistics Day, it is also important because it happens to be the birthday, the anniversary of Professor Prasanta Chandra Mahalanobis, PCM. I congratulate the Indian Statistical Institute for having organized this event. It happens to be National Statistics Day, and we usually remember Professor Mahalanobis as the one who established the discipline of statistics and related statistical organizations like the Central Statistical Organization, the Indian Statistical Institute, the National Sample Survey as a basis for what we today understand to be the Indian statistical system. He not only established the edifice and the foundation of the Indian statistical system, he also established the discipline of statistics at a time when statistics was often not recognized as a separate discipline. But if we look at Professor Mahalanobis only as a statistician, we will do injustice to the person. Professor Mahalanobis was born in 1893, towards the end of the 19th century. But in many respects, he represented what has come to be described as the quintessential Renaissance Bengali intellectual. He was a noted expert on Rabindranath Tagore and his writings. He had a wide range of interests. There is no satisfactory biography that has been done of PCM yet. Yes, there is a biography that has been authored, and a very good biography at that, by Professor Nikhilesh Bhattacharya. But that's a limited biography that focuses on PCM's work as a statistician, his role as one of the members of India's Planning Commission, but it does not capture the broad canvas of PCM's interest. For instance, his work on statistics was triggered by anthropometry, which meant measuring the skulls of Bengalis at that particular time. One must also appreciate that PCM made the Indian Statistical Institute an international statistical institute. There were many famous statisticians, J.B.S. Holden, Abraham Wald, who visited ISI at that particular time. We remember him often as I said, the author of India's second five-year plan, or the model of India's second five-year plan, and as a member of the Planning Commission. The Historical Planning Commission has been through many stages, but one must remember that the Planning Commission becomes relevant or became relevant only when it was in sync with the political dispensation. And that is exactly what happened to the Planning Commission when PCM was a member during the second five-year plan, because technically his two-sector model was authored in 1953 before he became a member. I congratulate ISI once again for having done this event, for having organized this event to remember PCM. And I hope at some point, if nothing else for the sake of posterity, a full-fledged biography of Professor Mahalanobis is done, which does justice to him as an individual with his range of interests, as a person who, for instance, I think, actually himself composed the emblem, the Sanskrit motto of ISI. Because that particular Sanskrit motto I have not been able to find in any Sanskrit text. Finally, it is my honor to be the president of the Indian Statistical Institute, an organization that represents and carries forward Professor Mahalanobis' legacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Debray, for your nice address. Next program will be an address by our chairman of ISI Council, Professor Govardhan Mehta.
Dear colleagues, members of the staff and students of the Indian Statistical Institute fraternity, it is my privilege to greet you all on the 127th birthday of our esteemed founder, Professor Prasanta Chandra Mahalanobis, fondly the professor or PCM to us. This day is commemorated as National Statistics Day. In our institute, we celebrate this day also as Workers' Day and pay homage to the great scientist, a visionary leader who gave everything to the institution and the country. PCM was a complete scientist, excelling in research and applying its fruits for the advancement of the country and well-being of society and people. Our institution and many others that PCM established and nurtured are a living testament of his outstanding persona and his multifaceted contributions. We remember PCM today with reverence and affection and draw inspiration from his life. Today, I wish to recall the presidential address of PCM at the 37th session of the Indian Science Congress, published in Sankhya in Volume 10, Part 3, under the title Why Statistics. His foresight and thoughts captured therein about the domain of statistics and its importance has been an inspiration for the growth and advance of the field. Indeed, advance of statistics and its applications have greatly diversified and amplified, covering almost all disciplines, and it is now poised for even greater strides as more and more data is becoming available at an astounding pace. This in a way is a fitting tribute to PCM, who foresaw the interdisciplinary role that statistics would need to play in advancing other disciplines and critical to solving many problems of our people and the planet. It is to be recalled that PCM encouraged fields like humanities and natural and social sciences in the Indian Statistical Institute well ahead of time. With changing times, institutional expectations also change both within and outside, and ISI has been sensitive to this and has adapted to the emergent times by diversifying to other areas of contemporary interest while retaining and strengthening the central role of statistics. We need to continue on that evolving trajectory and as an enlightened institutions always be ready and willing to embrace change to better serve the institution, discipline, and the country. This institute exists and its profile attracts traction because of scientific contributions made by all the stakeholders of the institute. I have often felt elated during my association with our institution and noted with a sense of pride the significant contributions that our faculty and researchers continue to make, the visibility these efforts generate, and the accolades and appreciation that our colleagues receive. I hope and wish that ISI researchers and students will continue to maintain this tradition and go from strength to strength. While all this is heartening, it is important for the Institute to strongly engage with important and challenging national build problems and help find sustainable solutions, an enviable legacy that PCM has left for us to follow. As we pay homage to our founder, we must make the promise to him that we shall carry forward the torch that he lit in 1931 with pride and conviction. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Mehta, for your nice address on this occasion. I will now introduce another very good speaker, Professor Molay Ghosh, who is a distinguished professor in the Department of Statistics, University of Florida. He is a fellow of American Statistical Association, a fellow of Institute of Mathematical Statistics, elected member to the International Statistical Institute. He will now give a talk on Professor Mahalanobis.
I joined the Indian Statistical Institute in February 1971. Professor Mahalanobis passed away in June 1972. So as you can imagine, for a young entering faculty like I, there was very little opportunity for direct interaction with Professor Mahalanobis. I heard him speak on several occasions, but there were only 2 occasions when I had brief interaction with him. The first time I met him, he asked me about my research interest. At that time, I was working on nonparametric inference, and I just mentioned that. And then his reply was, "Is projective geometry a part of nonparametric inference?" I still do not know the answer. But at that time, I must confess that I thought he was joking. Due to my naivety, I made a humorous reply. I said that Professor R.C. Bose may not think that way. Professor Bose, another legend of his time, contributed so much not just to statistics but also to combinatorics. Projective geometry was an area where he made many fundamental contributions. Professor Mahalanobis was not offended at all, but some of my colleagues chided me at that time. They were right in their impression regarding my audacity as a young faculty talking to the professor that way. Incidentally, in those days there was only one professor. Everyone else was a doctor. Dr. Rao, Dr. Basu, Dr. J. Roy and others, but only one professor, and the professor was PCM. The second time was more pleasant. Somehow or other, the concept of statistical distributions came about. PCM asked me, "Do you agree that all real-life distributions are discrete?" This I agreed wholeheartedly. Yes, I still cherish the view that real-life distributions are discrete and continuous distributions are only convenient approximations of discrete distributions. We all know that Professor Mahalanobis was the founding father of statistics in India. He was a true visionary, one of the very few who had the foresight that statistics would emerge as a major discipline someday. He founded the statistical laboratory in a tiny room in the Becker Laboratory of the Presidency College. The inauguration was on December 17, 1931, but ISI was formally registered on April 28, 1932. One interesting thing that I found, the first year expense of ISI was rupees 238. I do not know the current budget of ISI. Professor Bandyopadhyay will update you on that. Must be several multiples of 238. Professor Mahalanobis had the real knack of identifying talents and giving these talented people every opportunity to flourish. I can think of a whole list of names: R.C. Bose, S.N. Roy, C.R. Rao, J.B.S. Halden, K.R. Nair, R.R. Bahadur, Gopi Kalyanpur, D.B. Lahiri, and the list goes on and on. Professor Mahalanobis was a member of the Planning Commission of India, starting with the second five-year plan. His variant of Vasily-Lentiv's input-output model, popularly known as the Mahalanobis model, was employed in the second five-year plan. He was a very close friend of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. In fact, I have heard from many reliable sources that PCM was one of the few people who could visit Pandit Nehru without any prior appointment. Needless to say, it helped development of the ISI. Most importantly is recognition as a national institute in 1959. Professor Mahalanobis served as the honorary advisor of the Government of India for a long time. He founded the National Sample Survey, NSS, in 1950. He was also instrumental in formation of the Central Statistical Organization, popularly known as the CSO, to oversee statistics in India. He was also a member of the UN Subcommittee on Sample Surveys during 1947 through 1951. Mahalanobis was instrumental in setting up the master's program in statistics in the Calcutta University in 1941. The Calcutta University has produced many distinguished statisticians for nearly 80 years. The first batch of graduates in 1943 included two of my real favorite statisticians, Professor Sriyar Rao, a living legend in statistics, and Professor Harikinkar Nandi, my revered teacher, who introduced me to statistical inference, a topic that helped me making my living for all these years, a topic which I've been teaching for nearly 80 years. PCM was also instrumental in setting up the first bachelor's program in statistics in Presidency College, Kolkata, and then again this proved to be an outstanding venture. Now some of the research of Professor Mahalanobis. Professor Mahalanobis' contribution to statistics is manifold. The first that comes to mind is the Mahalanobis D-square. The paper was published in 1930, but the motivation came from a study on racial likeness, a question posed by then Director of Zoological Survey to analyze anthropometric measurements of Anglo-Indians in Kolkata. The D-square statistic is a measure of divergence between two populations, and it is scale-free. There were later developments, actually Hoteling's T-square and many others, but Mahalanobis was the pioneer. The D-square is a method of comparing and grouping populations using a multivariate distance measure. The next well-known contribution is related to large-scale sample surveys. Early surveys began between 1937 and 1944 with a variety of issues, such as consumer expenditure, public opinion, crop acreage, plant disease, and others. Its importance was recognized by Sir Ronald Fisher, who commented that, in quotes, the ISI has taken the lead in the original development of the technique of sample surveys, the most potent fact-finding process available to the administration, unquote. Mahalanobis introduced a method for estimating crop yield, which involves statisticians in the fields by cutting crops in a circle with a 4-foot diameter. Less well known is Mahalanobis' fundamental contribution to resampling. Indeed, he was a precursor of bootstrap. We all attribute the idea of bootstrap to Brad Efron, indeed, very appropriately, because he was the one who coined the term and laid it on a solid mathematical foundation. But it was Mahalanobis who recognized the importance of not just random sampling from his population, but random sampling from a sample. He wrote several articles on this and several reports as well. I encourage everyone to read the article of Peter Hall in Statistical Science 2003, page to page 158 to 167, a short prehistory of bootstrap. Let me talk a little bit about it. Mahalanobis was invited by the government of Bihar to take a survey of crop yields similar to what he had done for West Bengal in late September 1943. But by that time, Mahalanobis was contacted that Rabi, the spring season, was already well advanced and the development of sampling methodology was virtually precluded. It was within this relatively difficult context that he developed methodology very close to contemporary bootstrap. Peter also mentioned something like moving block sampling for spatial data, which is quite akin to some version of bootstrap. In summary, I can echo what has been said for Mahalanobis for several decades. He was a man of vision who laid the foundation stone of statistics in India and built the ISI, an institute which has produced several generations of world-class statisticians. The institute has grown considerably over the years. Indeed, I have been told by many people that the best place for research in 4 topics, statistics, mathematics, economics, and computer science, is the Indian Statistical Institute. Long live ISI.
Thank you, Professor Ghosh, for your enlightening talk today. The next item is a short film on Professor Mahalanobis.
Prasanta Chandra Mahalanobis, the visionary and maker of Indian Statistical Institute, through the lenses of reprography and photography unit. This photographic presentation covers the period from 1945 up to 24th of May 1972, the day just before Professor was transferred to a Calcutta nursing home. The nucleus of ISI was formed by Professor Prasanta Chandra Mahalanobis in 1928 when he set up the statistical laboratory at the Baker Laboratory, Presidency College, paving the way for the eventual foundation of the Indian Statistical Institute on 17th of December 1931. Shankha, the Indian Journal of Statistics, started publishing in 1933. P.C. Mahalanobis' close relationship with Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore is well known. In his own words, Professor wrote, Rabindranath Tagore used to take a keen interest in our statistical work from the very beginning and visited the statistical laboratory in the Presidency College on many occasions. The name Amropali was given by Tagore to the garden house purchased by Mahalanobis in 1941. ISI acquired 3 acres of land at its new premises adjacent to Amropali at 203 BT Road, Calcutta 35 in 1949. Building construction started in 1950-51. Professor R.A. Fisher formally inaugurated the large block of RTS building on December 15, 1951, on the 20th anniversary of the foundation day of the Institute. Isaac and Library shifted from Presidency College to the new premise in early 1953. Prasanta Chandra Mahalanobis built up a very close association with Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. In 1954, the then Prime Minister Nehru entrusted Professor Mahalanobis and the Indian Statistical Institute with the responsibility of preparing second draft 5-year plan for the country. Mahalanobis submitted it to the Prime Minister on 17th of March 1955. This very important task entrusted to ISI reflects the confidence of Nehru on Mahalanobis personally and on the Institute as a whole. Nehru visited on different occasions at ISI. In December 1959, Government of India recognized the Indian Statistical Institute as an institution of national importance with powers to award degree by the enactment of ISI Act in Parliament, which was steered by Pandit Nehru himself. The teaching program of the institute was organized more systematically during 1950s under the active guidance and encouragement of Professor P.C. Mahalanobis, Sir Ronald D. Fisher, Professor J.B.S. Halden, Professor Shrutendranath Bose, Dr. Meghnad Shaha, and others. Degree courses started in 1960. The first convocation was held on February 12, 1962. There is one scientist who deserves mention along with Mahalanobis during ISI's growth years. It is Professor C.R. Rao. Together with P.C. Mahalanobis, he has been the best known face in ISI's academic activities since 1941. International Statistical Education Center (ISEC) was established in October 1950 under the joint management of International Statistical Institute and ISI. Professor's vision of interdisciplinary research led to the establishment of Electronic Computer Laboratory in 1950 and the installation of the first electronic computer in India, AGC-2M, in 1956 and ISI-JU-1, commissioned in 1966. No account of Professor Mahalanobis and ISI can be complete without reference to the stream of eminent scientists and statesmen who visited ISI on different occasions. Sir Ronald D. Fisher came 4 times between 1938 and 1954. J.B.S. Halden came in 1951 and again in 1954. W.A. Shewhart visited ISI in 1947, 48 and again in 1954-55. Other eminent scientists like Harold Hotelling, William Hurwitz, Frank Yates, Frederick Joliot-Curie, Iron Joliot-Curie, Norbert Wiener, Arthur Linder, T. Kitagawa, G. Taguchi, Jan Timbergen, A.N. Kolomokorov, Niels Bohr, Pamela Robinson, J.D. Bernal, I.Y. Pisarev, and many others have visited and enriched the Indian Statistical Institute. Professor Mahalanobis was perhaps the only Indian scientist who was equally welcome in the United States of America, USSR, Japan, and China during the 1950s and 1960s. Foreign statesmen like Zhou Enlai, the then Prime Minister of China, Ho Chi Minh, Premier of People's Republic of Vietnam, Che Guevara from Cuba, Alexei Kosygin from USSR, Lyndon Johnson, Vice President of the United States of America, visited the Indian Statistical Institute and interacted with Professor Mahalanobis. Premier Zhou Enlai invited Professor to improve the official statistical system in China. Indian statesmen and leaders like C. Rajagopalachari, Governor of Bengal, C.D. Deshmukh, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, M.C. Chagla visited the Indian Statistical Institute. C.D. Deshmukh took active interest in the development of ISI. For over more than 2 decades, he held the position of President of ISI from 1945 to 1964. Deshmukh's friendship with P.C. Mahalanobis was of long standing and very close. As part of her work on planning for national development and as an experimental unit of economics of cottage industries, Kollanusri started on 28th February 1956 and worked under the direct supervision of P.C. Mahalanobis and his wife Nirmal Kumari Mahalanobis. It produced household craft and provided training to mainly displaced persons from East Pakistan. This unit worked till 1967. Professor's interest in social and cultural activity is manifested in the establishment of ISI Club, Workers' Circulating Library, House Magazine, Shampodottham, etc. Prasanta Chandra Mahalanobis was full of affection, love and kindness to all the workers of the Indian Statistical Institute. Professor Prasanta Chandra Mahalanobis' love for photograph is visible in different mood captured in the camera by the photographer of Reprography and Photography Unit. His love for his wife, Mrs. Rani Mahalanobis, forever is perceptible in different photographs. professor was also full of love and affection to children, and his love to pets and plants was evident. During his days, tree planting by all visitors became celebratory occasion.
I must thank our team from Reprography for this nice short film on Professor. We'll now go to the next program, which is a talk by Mr. Praveen Srivastava, who is also known to all of us. He is the Secretary of the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation.
Professor Sangmitra Bandyopadhyay, Director, Indian Statistical Institute, faculty, officers and officials of the ISI, please accept my warm greetings to all on this auspicious occasion of the 14th National Statistics Day and ISI Workers' Day on 29 June 2020. I start my talk by congratulating the ISI and the administration for organizing such a befitting ceremony in celebration of the genius and contribution of Professor PCM even in these challenging times. Government of India has been celebrating this day every year since 2007 to mark the birth anniversary of Professor P.C. Mahalanobis as Statistics Day and in recognition of his valuable contribution in the field of economic planning and statistics especially. This day holds a special importance and relevance for us, and above all a strong conviction to further the robustness of the role of statistics in nation building. Professor Mahalanobis is the doyen of modern statistical system of the country and was responsible for establishing institutes like the Indian Statistical Institute, the Central Statistical Organization, and the National Sample Survey Organizations. These three institutions have laid the foundation for a strong and a robust national statistical system for which we are all proud of, and it is globally recognized. The ISI is an institution of national importance and it stands apart as a unique institution devoted to research, teaching, application of statistics to natural and social sciences. It has been making outstanding contribution with high-level research, quality training, and many notable projects executed over the years since its establishment. I am delighted to note that ISI, as a leading institution, continuously strives to undertake reforms by introducing several innovative courses and research themes to become globally competitive and also to contribute for development of the country. In 2019, last year, the ministry had decided on Sustainable Development Goal as the main theme for the Statistics Day, and following that there were several celebrations, workshops, seminars wherein academia, the industry, the stakeholders, other stakeholders like NGOs, media, all joined hands in furthering the work of the Sustainable Development Goals and being able to define the indicators in a way that is meaningful for development. This year too, we have decided two specific goals which are relevant to these challenging times. SDG 3, which is relating to ensuring healthy lives and promoting well-being for all at all ages, and SDG 5, achieving gender equality and empowering all women and girls. As announced last year, we have proposed that till 2030, we will be taking two critical components of the SDGs so that they can be further worked upon, researched, and we can monitor the progress of our achievement in those Sustainable Development Goals. We realize that this year's celebration is far different from that in earlier years. The global pandemic has brought in systemic changes to our lives, to our society, and to the economic world for which we are all an integral part. However, one clear message within all these systemic and reformative changes is that of the utmost utility in application of statistics to combat an unknown entity. Colleagues, as you all know, statistics deals with the unknown, and the discipline, the theory, the practice helps refine this unknown entity in a way that people can take action. There is a significant scope to build a sound knowledge base on the heels of the pandemic and its effect, especially using little or small data. It is Professor PCM who stressed upon the importance of statistics in the field of science and general methods of inductive inference. On the face of the pandemic, the need for extensive, reliable inferences from little-known facts, data assumes significant importance. I understand that the scientists of ISI had initiated a number of projects to analyze COVID-19 data, and we look forward to collaborate with them at various levels. I would like to also place on record the contribution of ISI in assisting the Ministry for estimating the deaths averted due to the lockdown. Professor Bimal Roy and ISI faculty did this research in 2 days flat, and we were able to release the results in a public forum. Responsiveness is the need of the day. Any institution, for it to remain sustainable and relevant, needs to evolve. So we need to further enhance the vision of Professor Mahalanobis to bring together the worlds of academia and policy making, giving way to evidence-based policy making and development planning. I am confident that the ISI will continue to contribute for innovations toward economic and social development needs of the country. MOSPI will be happy to collaborate with ISI to take forward the themes of SDG 3 and 5 on gender and health for more action-oriented research. In turn, ISI needs to reorient strategies for further broadening its vision to welcome and encompass all other disciplines that produce data and for getting associated with solving national problems. Once again, I extend warm greetings and good wishes to Professor Vivek Debroy, President ISI, Professor Sangmitra Bandyopadhyay, Director ISI, and all those associated with the celebrations today on Statistics Day and ISI Workers' Day. I wish the Institute every success in the future and contribute to nation building. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Mr. Srivastava, for your heartwarming speech. We'll now have an address by Dr. Prasanta Mahalanobis.
In spite of numerous obstacles, today the nation is celebrating 29 June as National Statistics Day. Like previous years, we are celebrating this day, Workers' Day, to commemorate 127th birthday of the founder of this institute and the great visionary Professor Prasanta Chandra Mahalanobis. As a representative of ISI Workers Organization, we express our admiration to this great scientist who dreamed of this institute, which paved the way of developing the National Statistical Framework. ISI, being primarily a research institute, has contributed immensely for the growth of science and technology in India and abroad. ISI is the only institute in India which has richest tradition of blending social and natural sciences aimed at national development and social welfare using statistics as the key technology. On behalf of Indian Statistical Institute Worker Organization, we convey our warm greetings on this auspicious day. We are going through an unprecedented global predicament. We stand solidarity with all of you. Amidst to this tumultuous situation, the devastating cyclone of the century, Amphan, on 20th May 2020 has left a trail of destruction all around us. The enormity of devastating and suffering of ordinary folks are incalculable. March in the shadow of COVID-19. In keeping with the need of the hour, ISI Club, in association with ISIW, has organized a relief fund as a part of social responsibility, where our workers and well-wishers has contributed generously to render assistance to the needy. Our efforts helped in providing direct respite to those affected in the neighborhood of ISI. The coexistence of theory and applied research in various fields of social and natural sciences has consolidated ISI's growth and development over the years. The publications by the scientific workers of the Institute in reputed national and international journals and books, the citation recorded for such work had been commendable. The teaching undertaken at ISI is highly specialized and unique in nature. The courses ranges from diverse fields from mathematics, statistics, computer science, cryptology to quality control, library and information sciences. Professor Mahalanobis received many honors and accolades for his remarkable contribution to the development of statistics in India. In 1968, Government of India awarded him Padma Vibhushan for his contribution to science and services to the country. We are aware that very first line that elaborates the memorandum of association of our beloved institution. The objective of this institute shall be to promote study and dissemination of knowledge of statistics with the aim of addressing problems of planning for national development and social welfare. We are proud to have as our founder someone who valued work towards direction all through his life. Professor visualized the development of statistics through its application in other disciplines, leading to formation of multidisciplinary units. Like the huge banyan tree in the emblem of the institute, ISI has nurtured subjects other than statistics and mathematics with equal emphasis. He dreamt of an institute that would be complete and self-sufficient in all respects and equipped with various service units and departments. But now, days are the stories of past, and the present picture is that now we are relying more and more on hired or outsourced services with respect to both man and technology due to the mandate of the government. The institute is now in a precarious situation owing to continuously diminishing worker strength due to regular superannuation or death. On the other hand, there is a continuous expansion of the areas of work under the torchbearers of the professors. We are hopeful and confident of restoring the glory and tradition of ISI and its coming back to the right track in which the great visionary tried to develop this institute. This, we believe, can be achieved through continuous discussions with authority and our nodal ministry, in which we are sure all the workers of ISI are going to take lively and responsible role under the leadership of ISIW, the only organization for all sections of workers. Thank you very much. Stay safe.
We just heard Dr. Parthapratim Mahanta, our ISIW's representative. I must thank him for a very wide-ranging speech covering Professor's works and ISI's present status. I will now request the next speaker, Mr. Jahor Sarkar. We need to introduce him briefly, even though the ISI community knows him very well. Mr. Sarkar is a retired Indian civil servant who is equally well known as a researcher, publisher of articles, author, and a public speaker. He last served as CEO of Prasar Bharati from February 2012 to October 2016. He has been unanimously elected as chairman of the prestigious Center for Studies in Social Science, Calcutta. He served as Secretary of the Ministry of Culture, Government of India from 2008 to February 2012. As the Secretary of the Ministry of Culture, he initiated long pending reforms and took up the modernization of museums, archives, and libraries, for which he was awarded the British Museum Medal. So we will now request Mr. Sarkar to address on this occasion.
Today I would like to highlight certain other aspects of Professor Prasanta Chandra Mahalanobis that are usually missed out when we make our assessment about him as a professor, as a statistician, as somebody who was solidly grounded in physics, was so deeply involved in national reconstruction in the Planning Commission. I would start by putting in a very subtle point, but this matters more than anything else because it relates to the foundation of the Indian democracy. Immediately after independence, when government stepped in to assist the ISI, there were attempts to put quite a few conditionalities and turn it into a government organization. This is the point we need to note that Dr. Mahalanobis stood up for his principles, stood up for academic autonomy, stood up for the right to decide what research would be conducted without interference of the state, politics, or government. This is indeed a remarkable achievement because based on the ISI's independence, its autonomous structures, quite a lot of other institutions of India, free India, would grow up. He was in fact offered a ministership by Pandit Nehru, which he refused, and that shows the character of the man. He refused because that would curb his independence. When he was told about the provisions in the act that would curb his capacity to function, he said he would resign. That is a man. And he is a forebearer of academic autonomy, research autonomy, and one of the finest examples that we need to put forward now. I'll give three short examples because all of you are familiar with it. In the 1920s, late 20s, he used his discipline of statistics to adjust the riverbed of the Mahanadi for 60 years, based on which the Hirakud Dam would come up. This is academics with a purpose, and this is what most academics tend to miss out when they get into the esoterics of research. His work on the crop estimates are a foundation level work that India follows. His work on the Bengal famine, for instance, reveals a deep sense of involvement with his countrymen. His work in anthropology, rather anthropometrics, is known to all. Even though this sort of racial analysis or anthropometric measurements are not in favor now. In fact, the concept of race is being challenged. The fact that he has done basic solid work once in a lifetime and has kept them for us is a salutary tribute to physical anthropology and even on to social anthropology. That reminds me when I started my own little research into the population of Bengal, into the social structure of Bengal, Bengali society, I had to fall back on pre-census estimates. And the only ones that were available were with the pre-census population study unit of the ISI. This is quite a far-reaching thought, a far-reaching exercise that he had undertaken with Professor Durga Prasad Bhattacharjee, who I happen to know. And most students of statistics would perhaps not be interested in getting into this very nebulous, this very amorphous area. But we must realize that the firm ground is not the only ground. These tools of statistics, projection, extrapolation, backing needs to be done so that we have a reasonably firm estimate of what I call terra incognita, the unknown land. Because all proper work cannot begin with firm estimates. My submission is that we also need to take very intelligent and very supportable estimates on how Bengal or how India looked before the first census of 1872 came. And that is where Professor Mahalanobis and Professor Durga Prasad Bhattacharjee played their role. Now I'll come to something very interesting. This interesting part is that being so close to Tagore and Vishwabharati, he could not but be interested in literature and society. I read with a great amount of interest his annotated note or his explanatory note on Muktadhara. In fact, I would recommend that this note on Muktadhara, which he has written in 1922, an explanatory note, cuts a lot of speculative nonsense that often comes with literature and the humanities. He is a scientist, straight to the point, and in very crisp and clear language, he has explained what Tagore had tried to do. He also got into a serious committee discussion with stalwarts of the language, linguistics and Bengali, like Professor Shuniti Kumar Chattopadhyay, Professor Charuchandra Bandyopadhyay, Professor Haraprasad Shastri. And this debate was on the problem of spelling of colloquial Bangla words. Now, this is in the 1925 that he engaged with them, of course, at the behest of Rabindranath Tagore. But then, of all the persons available, he had picked up this subject with his eye for logic. The amount of contesting spellings, the contesting pronunciations that came in, he wanted standardization. The man was very clear in what the country needed, even if it be in linguistics. As you all know, that he was an active member of the Brahmo Samaj, but very few would know that he actually conducted services like a priest, and he was also their president for many years. In spite of that, when we examine deeply the religiosity of Professor Prasanta Chandra Mahalanobis, we find a streak of secularism. He was basically intrinsically secular, plural, and the way people like us would put him into the category of a questioning agnostic. In fact, you cannot be a scientist and not be a questioning person. Agnosticism. But then the last and the most interesting domain that I will try to put in a few words is about his association with Tagore. What we need to understand is the insights that he has left behind. The Jallianwala Bagh incident, for instance, is a big question mark. I mean, the reactions to Jallianwala Bagh. As we all know, Tagore was the first to get into this reaction, and he was deeply melancholic. During this period, Prasanta Mahalanobis was closest to him, and he has left behind notes on how Tagore felt about the brutal massacre, how he differed with Mahatma Gandhi, and how relieved he was as a person when his letter of surrender of knighthood came. These insights from very personal knowledge are absolutely essential, and they enrich our state of knowledge. His Tagore Chronicle that came out in 1931 is in fact the skeleton, the very core of biographies on Rabindranath Tagore. Even now they provide a very authentic skeletal, brief, scientific, bullet point wise note on where Rabindranath went, what he did up to his 70th year. This is a valuable document. He was deeply influenced by his universalism and his humanism. And this influence is not something that he contained to himself personally. His humanism comes out at every step of his work in planning, in social service, in rural reconstruction, to which he devoted his life through the Planning Commission and otherwise. Finally, a last word on his work on Tagore. In 1931, he wrote on impact of Tagore in modern India. There are many other Bengali and English writings to which we can refer. And his work on Tagore and Vishwabharati provide valuable source materials for that period that need to be factored in when people make their analysis of Rabindranath Tagore based on records that are known only in Vishwabharati. Though small, ISI contains a certain amount of information that should be factored more into Tagore research. All in all, I would sum up by saying that Prasanta Chandra Mahalanobis was a man far ahead of his time, a complete man, a Renaissance man, a scientist with a humanist heart and a literary bent of mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sirkar, for your thought-provoking talk. We are almost close to the program. I wish all of you to be on the pink of your health. We will now have the national anthem.